Hello Steelers, and welcome to this Salute 2021 Wargaming Show Report. This was the first Salute since the coronavirus pandemic stopped all public meetings. It's normally held earlier in the year, but this was pushed all the way back to November just to ensure that it went ahead this year. As always, the show was busy and well attended, but the numbers of traders and games on display was quite low. This was probably due to fears of the pandemic still, but it was great to see the show up and running again and in good health. I filmed as much of the show as I could, and you can see the results in this video. Looking at other social media posts, I certainly know that I missed some tables and games, and I can only apologise for that. It wasn't intentional, there was just such a huge amount to see. Also, a huge thanks to all those that agreed to be interviewed. You're all stars. Okay, now I'll shut up and let you enjoy the show.
Hi there, I'm Per Broden. I've taken Poltava here today with the Wire Foresters and myself. I normally write a little blog called roller1.com. I'm known as Per at Roller1. My real name is Per, so that's kind of suitable. We're taking Poltava here today. Poltava is a famous battle in the Great Northern War. It's really kind of the end of Sweden or the beginning of the end of Sweden as a great power in the kind of Northern European region. So this is at the same time as perhaps the English-speaking world is more familiar with Marlborough and the War of Spanish Succession. But this is the sexier part of that era. So we're talking about things like we have Swedish forces, we have Saxon forces, we have Polish forces, and we have Danish forces. And Sweden fight them all, the different things. So today, for example, we have on the table over here, we have Cossacks that are screening the Russian flank, and basically the idea is that any Swede that kind of gets away from the battle will be taken care of in the back by the Cossacks. We also have the Russian in a camp here today, and we have basically the Swedes coming. The Swedes are coming attacking from their camp, and they basically force the Russians to a position where they besieged the fortress of Poltava, therefore the name Poltava. The Russians have actually sought battle. The Russians have up to this time withdrawn and burnt, things. We're famous from stories about things like this French guy called Napoleon and a German guy called Hitler. Similar kind of situation. In both those cases, and also in this case, it's actually the Russian win the day. So it's been a successful tactic for them. But really, this battle happens. The Swedish army is heavily decimated, and the Swedish army is quite small compared to the Russian one, and just looking at some of the numbers, we are talking about 4-to-1 kind of ratio. The Swedes are attacking normally, and they normally attack and the Russians defend. But in this situation, the Russians actually choose to go out of their fortifications and then meet the Swedes. And because they're superior number, then suddenly becomes an important factor. So as we know, for example, if you are in fortifications and when you attack in this period, which Sweden did, for example, in Narva 9 years earlier, Sweden kind of routed the Russians. So the Swedes kind of think the same thing will happen. But what has happened, as we'll see if you look at the board, is that some of the redoubts that have been built, they've been built overnight, and they're actually stopping the Swedish march. These redoubts are quickly done. It's about a battalion of men, 400 to 600 men with muskets shooting at the Swedes as they pass on. This battle board was made basically using a drop sheet that we use when we paint our houses at home. I use something, I have a plastic backing on the back of it. I then put acrylic paste on top mixed with sand, and then I kind of dry brush it. Then I put layers of flock, sometimes static grass, but mainly flock on this back. I then added tons of trees on it, because it forests, and as we can see, the forest plays an important role in the battle, but some of the infantry get lost, so we wanted to represent that on the table. We also built the fortress itself, the Poltava fortress, and again we've done a simple design around it, but it's to convey that kind of feel of that kind of Russian architecture, with the tower especially. So those towers are based on towers we know existed at the time. The monastery is a little bit of a lie, because the monastery was being constructed at the time. It's not as grand as it looks there. But why not? This is a show after all. Buildings mainly from total battle, apart from the fortresses I built myself. The Russian camp, which is a little bit wobbly, that's one of the problems with having a mat. We again built that, home built. and then we have some fields which are loose, but the rest is a mat, so all the roads, rivers are kind of sitting in the mat. And so far we've got interesting. There are a lot of interest, talking to a lot of people. Unfortunately, we haven't done so much gaming today, but part of this is trying to kind of convey the story. So it's really, for me, this is the scale to do this in, because we can tell the story with enough detail on the miniatures and the figures. But it's really the story about putting that town on siege, then the Swedish upmarch with the readouts, and then the main battle. So we've seen this a few times in 28mm or other scales, which looks massive, but it will be just the final battle, which is kind of really a foregone conclusion. You know, the Russians will win. So they're trying to kind of tell a story with this. This is the third part of a series of battles that we have presented. So we did first Lesnaya, which is where Sweden loses its supply column, part of this campaign, which is again devastating, why the Swedes are so few. And then we did a what-if battle in Horka in 1706. And the reason for that battle, we wanted to do a what-if, is the only chance it could have been a full army from each side meeting each other. The rest are a little bit kind of overwhelming for the Swedes. So it was a chance to have some glorious time. But really, Great Northern War then finishes, 11 years after this. Sweden then loses Baltic states with its dominance, some of the dominance it has in the northern Germany. And really Sweden is today not known as a nation of warriors anymore, we're just happy people, yeah? That's fair enough though, yeah? But once we used to kind of be really fearful on the battlefield, and that is not just the Norse time.
Well, this is the Battle of Poltava, which is a very important battle in the history of European history, kind of the end of the Swedish Empire and the beginning of the Russian Empire to some extent. Yeah, we're doing this. We're a local club in the West Midlands, Wild Forest Wargamers, but we're also doing this in association with the Pike and Shot Society, which I'm a member of. Well, the society aims to promote interest in warfare and wargaming in the Renaissance era, so from sort of 1450 up until this is basically the end of this kind of period. And as part of that, we publish a few rules. We publish a lot of kind of like uniform guides and history books and stuff. The two of those are to do with the English Civil War and the 30 Years' War, and there's a third set which is done not by them but by the same people to do the 70 Years' War, but that's outside the period. So we started kind of like helping out with this because we're interested in this kind of period and stuff. But they're kind of a sort of like a little bit of an unusual set in that kind of they're designed to fight large battles, usually historical battles, on a reasonable timescale, a reasonable figure. So this is actually 4 times bigger than we would normally do it in reality. So the units in this are a battalion, whereas they're normally a brigade, and we're fighting on a 6x4, 8x4 table, and you do that in an afternoon. So because of that kind of idea, the rules themselves are looking more at the bigger picture and command and that kind of things. And they're kind of quite unusual in that there's no shooting rules or meleeing rules and this kind of stuff. If you're in danger, which there's various things like being shot at and being in melee and stuff, but also things like having people to your flank and being bombarded by massive artillery and stuff, you take a morale test, and obviously that the what you need to do a morale test gets more difficult the more things are happening to you, and things like quality and stuff. And each of the different units has got a certain number of morale fails. When they lose that, they take them off. So it enables you to do. Poltava would be a 1-against-1 battle in a normal afternoon. Really big battles from the same kind of era like Blenheim and Malplaquet and that kind of things. They're probably 2-player games on an 8-foot table, that kind of thing. Okay. And I think they've got some other unusual mechanisms along. There's the idea of action tests. Essentially, if you want to do anything which is not just march forward, you need to take an action test, which is you roll a dice, and if you roll a 1 or 2, you fail. But your commanders can give you an extra chance to pass those tests, and so obviously the better commanders get more things to do it now. But yeah, I think they work quite nicely as a large battle set of rules, and I think they've got a reasonable following. There's a Napoleonic set, fingers crossed, sometime next year.
When did Salute get started?
The first salute was 1972, long before I joined the club, but yeah, in about 1972.
And it's been on every year since.
Yeah, I mean, literally last year was the first year we've actually missed. So it's next year will be our 50th show. Should have been this year, should have been our 50th show, but obviously we missed the one.
Have you got things planned for the?
Well, because obviously because of the pandemic and stuff, we've been sort of running 2 shows. This year we've run 2 shows. We're running obviously now this one we're actually in, but we're also running 2022.
Right.
Because that's only a few months away, April. So.
Yeah. And how did you survive the pandemic?
It's been hard trying to juggle with our suppliers, with Excel, with like printers and stuff like that. Everything that goes into the show, we've had to either postpone or delay or get moved back, if that makes sense. So we've come almost a year from the last show, if that makes sense, where it should have been. So it's been a lot of organisation nightmare, basically trying to keep it all running and all together, basically. Just to get to the point we're in now, where the public are in and enjoying the day. It's great. It's great to see.
Anything else you want to say about the South London Warlords?
Yeah, I mean, we're a friendly club. Obviously, our hall is in Dulwich, East Dulwich Village. Come down and see us on a Monday night. Everyone's welcome from 7 o'clock. Lots of friendly games, lots of friendly players. You'll see me. That'd be great for you. Come and join in. Other than that, we're just like any other normal club. We love playing with toy soldiers.
The game is Wellington at Bay. It's based on the Battle of Villamuriel during the retreat from Burgos in October 1812, and it's the biggest of the actions during the terrible retreat of the time, although nobody's ever heard of it. People have heard of Venta del Pozo and Villadrigo, which was 2 days before, but this was actually a lot bigger and a bit more interesting as well. We're playing the game with black powder. I think black powder is very easy to make work for historical scenarios, particularly at this sort of division size. And so I find it's easy, and my son, who's an ex-Warhammer player, finds it easy to make the conversion. So it's a great game, and it works well for this. The figures are all 15mm Old Glory from Timecast, as are the roads and river sections. The buildings are JR and hovels, although some you can't get the JR anymore, so they're precious. And the hovels walls. It took a lot of work. Obviously, it's nothing without the Callistra Hexon terrain, which I'm a big fan of. But there are 500 quid's worth of it on there. So really enjoying putting the day on today. There's been a lot of interest in the game, and hopefully everybody is buying a copy of my book, Wellington at Bay. It was suggested to me by another author, Carol Duval. She thought it was an unrepresented battle, and so what I thought would be a magazine article, because it's the Peninsular War, everybody knows everything about the Peninsular War, turned into 8 years of work, and this goes down to very low-level detail. One of the factoids I like to use is the Spanish brigade at the time was led by a guy called Lenin. If you look at his biography, which was published in 1850, one of the stories is that his brigade captured the band of the 15th line of the French. And you think, oh, that's got to be rubbish, isn't it? But if you look in the Register Matricule of the 15th linear, they lost 3 bandsmen and 2 drummers. And so you find these stories, are real. If you compare 2 sides, things that you dismiss are justified by what the other guy says. And the book is full of stuff like that. And,
Brilliant.
I looked at 100,000 prisoner of war records to find the guys who were taken prisoner here.
Wow.
200 of them.
Wow. Excellent.
So yeah, it's that sort of detail. Plus there are 3 scenarios in the book describing how to fight it.
Why are you here?
Well, I'm to have a good time, first and foremost. It's my very first salute here on my birthday. Thank you very much. It's been a very good day. We put together a bolt action mega table, and what we've got behind me here is the first section of what's going to be a 16 by 4 foot Normandy themed Band of Brothers table. So it's been produced by Luke Fellows of Geek Gaming Scenics, so a pretty well known terrain maker. And we're going to be using the table to hopefully raise the profile of the hobby and to raise some money for charity at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so what's the charity?
So it's the National Kidney Federation.
Okay.
So they look after kidney patients around the country, so thousands of people every year. And as a transplant patient myself, or currently waiting for a transplant, it's a charity that's very close to my heart. Yeah, given being the health condition that I've got, it was quite a difficult year last year. Spent a lot of time in isolation. And while that was happening, I started to explore the hobby of my youth a little bit more. And started to watch YouTube and was really inspired by the likes of Mel Bowes and Luke and some of the other fantastic terrain makers and just the awesome stuff that they do. And I remember as a kid that joyous experience of going to a museum, but seeing it locked behind the glass and the great dioramas that you would see, being really frustrated by that because I wanted to get in and play and actually have a look around at these amazing models. And so I thought, wouldn't it be amazing to try and produce an amazing model that was realistic and full of detail and really immersive, but you could actually get hands-on with. Because there's lots of men like me who are in them older ages, running around playing war games, and it's great to have some younger people involved as well. And anything we can do, I think, to make the hobby a little bit more popular, particularly among a younger audience, would be great. So the plan is to take the table and the other sections when it's completed, and look to go to schools and clubs around the country and potentially even into Europe, and look to see if we can raise a bit more interest into the hobby and some money at the same time. It's been amazing. I mean, to be fair, it's one of the reasons why I asked Luke to build the table for me in the first place. I really liked his ethos. Yes, he's selling his own products on the channel, but that's come about because he's been making them and showing people how to use them, and it's a very organic business in the way that it's developed. And he's all about empowering people to be able to do it better. He says himself he's not a craftsman. He's just a lad who throws stuff around. And he's right. But it's a really accessible system, and there's a slightly sort of darker motivation as somebody facing a life-threatening health condition. I wanted to have a legacy. So the board itself is a physical legacy. It's there. But the videos that Luke's made on the process of how we made it, it's now out there for the whole wargaming community to take on and learn and use from. So it feels like something I've been able to give back to a hobby that's given me an awful lot over a lot of years.
So we have a Dragonborn and an Imperial Mage at the bottom there, working their way up Bleak Force Barrow through some Skeleton Archers, some Draugr Greatswords. The Draugr Overlord awaits them at the entrance to the tomb. He's a bit of a bully on the table, if I say so myself. We've had to tone him back quite a few times, but you know what? They're all quite nice where they are right now.
Okay, what we're putting on is a game centred on Pavlov's house, which was part of the Battle of Stalingrad in 1942, and we've covered the whole terrain section from the River Volga all the way up the bank to the famous mill and then to Pavlov's house itself. And in the Pavlov's house section, we're having a participation game, so people can come along and actually have a game of O group and fight over Pavlov's house.
Excellent. Have you had a lot of interest in it so far?
Yeah, it's been very well attended. Loads of people, loads of questions, all the usual stuff. Surprisingly, no one's criticised us yet, but I'll hold out.
Well, wait till the comments come.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So who actually made this table?
Yeah, it was the main instigator, if I can use that term, was Martin Stanbridge. He's our club terrain genius. He's a man armed with a laser cutter and a very good sense of artistic skill. It was his vision, if you like, to recreate Stalingrad, or this section of it. And he went to work with his laser cutter and his bits and pieces. And as you can see, he is very good. He's an artist, and he put it together brilliantly. It was supposed to come out for the last salute, but obviously that was postponed. So he's had another year of being able to knock it together and add new bits, and here we are today.
Excellent stuff. And it's O Group. You've just had a release, haven't you, for the Fall of France, 1940?
Yeah, it's we're using O Group rules, the 1940 supplement PDF that came out yesterday. I think yesterday afternoon. So I was quite pleased to see that come out eventually, and it's the first supplement of probably about 5, as long as I can. Have the energy and the skill to get them all out.
That's good to hear. And how is O Group selling on all this?
Yeah, I think
what's the feedback as well?
Yeah, I think Mr. Clark will be the man that will really let you in, but I think he's not been disappointed in me, and he hasn't sacked me. So yeah, I think sales are good, and more importantly for me is I think the reviews that I've read, 99% of them have all been very positive, and that's good for me. It's nice to see that the rules have been well received and that people are enjoying them, isn't it? They enjoy it, fighting World War II battles with O Group.
How does it feel then to see, when you've written a set of rules, how does it feel to see other people taking them off? I mean, I butcher them, but there's other people, I'm sure, stick to the letter of the law in the rules.
Yeah, no, it's fine, isn't it? We all got to learn the rules for a start. We've all got to play them, but it's enjoyable to watch your rules and your ideas and the kernel of ideas that you had at the start to say, right, why do I want to write these rules? And it's good that other people obviously have the same interests as well. They want to see those aspects of World War II as well, and that's all to the good.
My name's Iain Fuller. I'm from South London Warlords, and I'm helping out with this fantastic game put on by Martin Gain and Ian Spence over there. It's set in 1803. It's British troops attacking Delhi and using some house rules. Yeah, it's just a good, fun, quick game. Lots of fun to be had. The game was devised to be put on as a series of games, I believe. Salute Hall of Fame, so it's going to be games based on some of the older statesmen, shall we say, of these things. So Stuart Asquith died last year, and this game was supposed to be put on last year, so it's for him. Most of the figures were previously owned by Charles Grant Jr., so it's a bit more of the Hall of Fame stuff. And that's it. Beautiful figures, lots of colourful stuff. Elephants, rockets that go wherever they want, guys in pink turbans. Yeah, what more do you need?